Well, morning, everybody. I would say good morning. I know exactly how you're all doing. Sammy, United People's TV, here to kick off another week. And we're here to assess everything that happened yesterday in that 3-0 defeat to City. You can get involved in the chat. I want you to let me know how you think about the game, about Ruben Amorim, about the players, about how we played, about what happens next. It's going to be a tough show. It's going to be, no doubt, a feisty show. But get involved in the chat, and I'll try and involve as many of you as I possibly can. Imran, you're calling this Monday morning therapy. It's kind of way beyond Monday morning therapy now. But look, who's here? Everyone get involved. And let's try and keep it as civil as we possibly can, I suppose. Toby, good morning to you. Thank you for gifting 5 memberships, dude. I don't say that in a non-enthusiastic way. I'm being completely honest. Thank you. Right? Man, that was a bad one yesterday, right? That really was. Steph, good morning to you. Ant, good morning to you. Carl, you're there as well. And Josh, you'll be there. Vinny, good morning to you. We've got Carla, Foxy, Elbow Grease, Tony Dangler. Fred, you're there as well. Saeed, Mike, Caleb, James. Lots of the regulars. Everyone tuning in. Siraj, you're saying you're angry. And I think I said that in my match reaction last night. Gary Neville saying that he feels nothing from that game. That wasn't a game where I saw... You know, sometimes where it does. It reaches a point under managers and you just kind of like, you don't feel anything. You feel numb to a loss. I wouldn't say that was how I felt yesterday. Really, really wasn't. And I'll explain that as we go on through the show. Can I start off with one little bit of positive news? Because it's not related to United, but apparently there's only going to be one international break from 2026 onwards. I'm taking that. That's about as positive as we can get. Good. There goes the positivity for the whole show. Right. Let's talk through it. All right. Wayboss, you're saying you're feeling dejected. What's we saying down there? Billy, you're saying, Sam, I remember end of last season, you said he should be given the window, but he needs to get results fast. And I agree with this. That's why I say he's not achieved this. So he should be let go. Now, I know there's going to be plenty of you that think that just going to be shouting out Amorim out in the comments and he should be sacked. Start this show. I can't hide away from the facts. Fact is, that game yesterday against City, and I just saw you said this in the chat, and I agree with this. That was not an incredible City team. By their own standards that they've set over these last few years in the Premier League. That was a very beatable City team. And Man United, in the first 15 minutes of that game, we played how I thought we would. I was curious going into it. First season under Amorim, all the crap results that we had pretty good performances away from home in these bigger games. Liverpool, Arsenal and City last season. Because we played a certain way. And we did play on the counter. And in the first 15 minutes of this game, it worked. Man United pressed quite well in the front third. Ugarte won the ball high a couple of times. United had the opportunities to feed Mbeumo once or twice. But every single final pass through was wrong. It was either overhit or it was the wrong decision. And after that first 15 minutes, City then settled. And then the weaknesses in the system got exposed. We were outnumbered in the middle of the park the entire game. Not the first time, and it won't be the last time. Unless changes happen, and according to Amorim himself, you're going to change the man because I'm not changing my philosophy. And the stats themselves, as I said, these aren't stats, all right? Stats are like how many goals you scored, how many shots you had. They're stats. These are just facts, right? 31 games under Ruben Amorim in the Premier League, and we won 8 of them. This one here is an absolute... My word. That's not just bad. That is as bad as it gets. Manchester United quite literally bottom of the Premier League for all the teams that have existed since November last year. That's taking out the 3 teams who got relegated. Bottom. Now, last season, Ruben Amorim came in mid-season. I can only just explain to you how I'm feeling, then I'm going to go down here and see what you're saying. Ruben Amorim came in mid-season last season. We made a big-ass mistake in keeping Ten Hag on, which I thought was the right choice. I was completely wrong. Hands up. I admit that. Ruben Amorim came in mid-season. He didn't want to come in mid-season. It was always going to be difficult to implement his system in the mid-season. I knew that. So what I wanted to see, and someone said it at the start of the show there, it was about seeing results at the start of this season. And maybe not even results. Because we spoke about that performance against Arsenal. If we saw that in every game, then you're going to be winning far more than you're losing. But that game against City, we just got embarrassed, ladies and gents. They held us at arm's length. They didn't even need to overrun our midfield. It was just, they kind of played it at a canter. It wasn't particularly difficult to negate the press. I'll speak about the pressing problems and the pressing shape. City did that in second gear. And I think that was the biggest problem for me. And why I was so frustrated. I'm going to go down here and see what you're saying in the chat. There's a couple of super chats and I'll read out some of your other comments as well. Rex, you're saying initially played well, but don't score like Arsenal. Don't capitalise on chances, make mistakes and mentally break. This happened last season too, just with different players. Now, I'm trying to think of when that was. If you're looking at the Arsenal game, right, I wouldn't say that we mentally broke in that game. In fact, we went 1-0 down and we actually started playing even better football. We just couldn't score. Last season, I agree with you. We very much did that quite a lot. Manny is saying, I know frustrations, but I've always maintained it's a 3-window rebuild. I got hammered, but I persist. Now I'm happy for Amorim to walk, but I want the fan base to give me an alternative name and plan. So far, nobody can. Now, Manny, I'm not going to be coming here this morning speaking about alternatives, speaking about going this path, that path. I don't really think that's a conversation for today. Just my personal take on it, right? Because I don't think it's something you can just come off. You know what I would say? Nah, I won't. I'm keeping that for later. Who said Southgate down there? Sack him. Whoever said that in the chat. Vano saying we play once a week. We've had a pre-season. It's enough because there's still no improvement. And yeah, I think I said this in my match reaction as well. We are playing once a week. We're probably going to have the shortest season that we've had in a long, long, long time. There are really no excuses around fitness anymore, around application. But there, in that game again, it was awful, right? And look, I sat there after the game and I waited and I watched Ruben Amorim's full press conference live. Very prickly, understandably. And he really has absolutely no intention of change. I think that's just the main thing I came away with from watching that press conference. This is a clip here from the BBC, right?
When I want to change my philosophy, I will change. If not, you have to change the man. It's not a record that you should have in Manchester United. There are a lot of things that you have no idea what happened during these months, but I accept that. But I'm not going to change. When I want to change my philosophy, I will change. If not, you have to change the man. So, and we'll talk about that every game that we lose. I don't believe in that in the system or whatever. I play my way, and I'm going to play my will until I want to change.
So that was a clip of partly what he said, but I think I said this before. I said this before the international break. And you're down there saying, look, it's now on Ineos force a change, system or manager. It doesn't need to be a complete system change. This is the thing this is the thing that's annoying me about Ruben Amorim and his tactical approach currently. I'm not asking you, Ruben, to throw your system out the window. That would just be foolish. Oh, yeah, stop playing three at the back. Stop playing with wing-backs. Stop playing with... The fundamental shape and the structure can stay the same, but for the love of God, you need to tweak that midfield. Like Grimsby played through it. I don't know off the top of my... For example, I need to watch more of maybe Crystal Palace and Glasner because they play with the same system, no? But how is it that they don't have the same sort of weaknesses that we do? What is it that's being applied differently in that iteration of the three at the back system that Manchester United simply aren't doing? Because the midfield just keeps getting overran, man. It happened against Fulham. It didn't happen against Arsenal, right? Which is something that Amorim is, I suppose, using as evidence for the system working. And it did work against Arsenal. And in that second half, Arsenal kind of did what Arsenal these days do. They sat back, they allowed and invited the pressure from United, but we still couldn't finish our dinner. Right? And I'm going to speak about three midfielders now. Bruno, Ugarte, and Mainoo. What are you saying down here? Matt, you're saying the facts speak for themselves. That's all we should care about. Darren is saying it wasn't a system problem. It was players doing the basics. I mentioned that first in my match reaction yesterday, and I will speak about, very shortly, I'm going to speak about Shaw, going to speak about Dorgu, going to speak about the problems that we saw against City. But I think it would be quite ignorant of me if I didn't speak about the glaring weaknesses in the overall system, which is not the first game that we've seen these. It probably won't be the last game that we've seen these. I think they have to be addressed. What else is he saying down here? Fred is saying playing once a week is just stretching the agony out. Is slow torture watching this. MB saying the midfield is completely on Ruben. The club were aware they weren't going to give Eriksen an extension. He made a makeshift number 8. Look, with Bruno, right? This Bruno playing deeper was something that Amorim did towards the end of last season, and it coincided probably with the best form of Bruno, didn't it? Bruno, the start of last season, he was crap. And then probably the last third, maybe a little bit longer, Bruno was unreal. Dragging United through, creating and kind of doing a lot of it from deeper positions. Is it more obvious in these bigger games? Does it become clearer? Or is it simply the fact that because it is a bigger game, there is more scrutiny on it and the games and the players themselves? Bruno Fernandes is still the best footballer in this Manchester United team. And you're playing your best footballer away from his best position on purpose. You're taking Bruno away from goal. It doesn't work. The midfield, the compromised midfield. We knew it would be an issue this year. It's why all of us, as happy as we were at the signings that we did make, knew the problem that not signing a midfielder created. Because it doesn't matter who you play there, man. You could play Mainoo there alongside Ugarte. It's still not perfect because Mainoo's... I'll speak about Mainoo in a minute. Right. Manny is saying, I could tweet United all day. And that's fine. But folks, these players today showed they can't do the basics. They showed it's not coaching, it's mentality and will. Mate, it's all wrapped up into one, man. It really is. There's no way that Ruben Amorim can come out of this City game and go, it's just the players. There's no way that you can come out of that City game and go, it's all Ruben Amorim. The players did nothing wrong. It is absolutely collective responsibility coming out of that City game. The players did not execute the... It's like, look, like Donnarumma. Kind of had a quiet game, really. Didn't need to do much. Then out of bloody nowhere, and Mbeumo whips out one of the most perfect technical volleys, and you can hardly position it better. Hit full power, first time, flying into the side netting, and Donnarumma, boom, stretches, gets his finger on it. Quality. Quality in the moment that was needed. Haaland didn't really have that was their first shot in the second half. Not much quality going forward. Bang, bang, bang. Dinks it over by India. Quality. At the moments that mattered yesterday, City had the quality. United, every single pass, overhit, incorrect decision. wrong. The quality wasn't there in those moments. And I know Bruno's going to get a lot of scorn, as Bruno always does. Even if Bruno has a good game, he gets the scorn of United fans. But it's just painful watching our midfield setup. It is so painful. Yeah, the Mbeumo chance in the first half, was that when he was put through? I can't remember who put him through. Was it Bruno? And that was with his right foot. Ahmad's overhead. Well, to be fair, the ball was kind of slightly behind Ahmad on that one. In fact, you're talking about a keeper issue. Dude, if you can criticise Ruben Amorim all you want, I'm happy that he kept Senny Lomans out of that sort of baptism of fire yesterday. Otherwise, people are going to be slapping this game on him as well. So I'm kind of happy that he avoided that, if I'm being totally honest. I don't think you could say that maybe Lomans would have come out and spread himself better for the goal. Maybe. I don't really think you can do anything about the first goal. Foden was in acres of space and it was too easy. The second one, potentially. But Kobbie, right? I was trying to think of how to explain this and sort of speak about this. Ruben Amorim and his midfield setup, like he wants wolves. He wants hunters. That's why the necessity for athletes, a dynamic, athletic number 6 was a necessity this summer, which didn't happen. And that's why Mainu doesn't fit in that system, that doesn't fit in that role. Because he isn't that wolf. He isn't that hunter. He's somebody who's technically proficient. Somebody who works in a midfield 3. You know what it is, right? If Ruben Amorim really came out with the truth and said what he wanted to say, he would say, well, Bruno Fernandes is going to be here this year, but it's probably the plan of the club to sell him next summer and for Kobbie Mainu to be his successor. So somehow I've got to keep both of them happy in this sort of transition year. And you know what I said about Kobbie. You know what I said about Bruno. If Bruno's got a monopoly on the position, then it's not really a competition for a place, is it? Now, yesterday, what you saw was, as the game went on, Bruno went further forward. Kobbie came into midfield, and United did have more chances. It's just the fact that he is a technical midfielder rather than a predominantly athletic midfielder. That's why Amorim's not playing him in that system. Because it's not the right physical profile for him in this midfield setup. Because when you're playing 2 in midfield, the requirements for that physical ceiling are kind of that much higher. Because as you're in a midfield 2, you have to cover so much more ground. And this is the thing for me, man. Like, I don't think Ruben Amorim should change his system. I really don't. And by that, I mean, don't just like rip it up, throw it out the window and go, okay, well, what are we going to do now? But, fella, you got to tweak it. Like, you've got to tweak it. This isn't a jump into a conclusion after one game. Right, that's 31 games in the Premier League. That's every game that's existed since you've come in as Manchester United manager. This is what's happened since match day 12 last season. We're literally bottom of the league. Like Ruben, it is not working in the current format. We've gone and we've had a summer as well. And despite there being improvements in chance creation, sure. And there was chance creation last season as well. Remember that. Remember how often we spoke about the fact that if we just had better finishers, if we just took our chances, then the results would come. Like Ruben, it has got to change. There has to be a tweak somewhere. Right? And I'm not a master tactician. I'm not a Premier League manager. I can't tell Ruben what to do. Manny, you're saying he shouldn't. It's not the system, but he needs to use what he has the best he can until he gets the rest that can run his system. Tweak. I've said how I think it could happen, and I don't know if it works. I've told you a million times. We play with two number 10s. Well, yeah, two number 10s, two inside forwards, and one centre forward. Switch that around. Drop the centre forward so he becomes a number 10. Push the two number 10s up so they become wide strikers. And all of a sudden, then you've got three in midfield because that is an extra body in midfield. You've still got the width from the fullback. Like yesterday, like I'm going to be speaking about him in a little bit more detail soon, but Patrick Dorgu had more touches in the box than any other Manchester United player. Can you tell me, combined, how many touches in City's box you think Šeško and Bruno had in the game yesterday? How many touches combined do you think they had? I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to read some of the chats out. Someone's saying the only time we've had success is the false nine. I'm not even talking about it being a false nine, man. I'm saying push the two number 10s up to be split strikers. So we've actually got two up front. It's just that number 9 drops to become the third. It's just switching where the 2 and the 1 is. That's all. That's the only. That's a tweak. That's not a system like tear up. That's just a tweak. That's what I mean. None. None is the answer, by the way. 0. I really, really believe in Ruben Amorim's ability and work that he's doing to the culture behind the scenes at this football club. I think no matter what happens, what he's left behind there is a far better positioned football club than the club that he inherited. And I think the changes that have happened from the top as well with the new Carrington, I think those have all helped. But on the pitch, tactically, it's currently just not working. Like people down there, Seri having a go at Bruno again. Like if you're playing Bruno, who's one of the best central attacking midfielders in the Premier League, and you're playing him as a central defensive midfielder, I know he's not a CDM on paper, but a CM, like he's a number 8. And you're not going to get the best out of him. You're going to be putting him in situations where he doesn't really want to be, but he's the captain of the club. He'll do what the manager's asking him to do. He doesn't really want to be there. Because he's far better as one of the number 10s. I don't think that Ineos have got any intention of jumping on the back of a defeat to City and sacking Ruben Amorim and tearing up the plan and going out after a new manager. But also, Ruben has to tweak, man. He has to. I'm sorry, but there is so much evidence now over a long period of time that shows you that from a sustainability perspective, there may be performances like the Arsenal game. There may be games where that midfield setup works. But if you're a well-organised team and you're well-coached and you do your research, you know what we need to do to beat Manchester United? We need to just make sure that we outnumber them in midfield. Get one of your number 10s to drop a little bit deeper. Create the extra man. Play 3 in midfield and do that. Then you've got a midfield diamond. You've got 4 against 2. Numbers work. When you've got 4 against 2 in midfield, it doesn't matter how hard you press. You can run like a headless chicken if you want. But you're playing 4 against 2, so that you can just do small triangles around, negate the press, and therefore you push up. Now, I'll speak about the pressing structure and the issues with the pressing structure yesterday. And I'm not even saying that dropping and having a third midfielder solves those problems. But something's got to give. Something's got to. I'm going to read some of your comments out here. DeAndre saying, have we all forgotten we act like we are City or Liverpool, capable of beating any team? overall, United's performances this season have certainly warranted more points than we've got, but we know it's a results game. And I said it. I said it at the end of last season, and I absolutely meant it. Like, after finishing 15th, fans realised that Ruben Amorim came in mid-season, and to judge at that point would have been harsh. I mean, judgments were kind of already cast, but Ruben was correctly given the summer, and United worked this summer. And this is something I said during the summer, and I'll say it now. We haven't signed players for Ruben Amorim's system. And I don't mean that in Ruben Amorim's not been backed. I mean the Manchester United. We just made bloody good signings in Cunha and Mbeumo. I'll speak about Mbeumo yesterday. So it doesn't actually matter like what happens with Ruben Amorim in that sense. I think if hypothetically he was to go, I'd still be happy with our squad, and I still think this squad would fit many a system, and we wouldn't just all of a sudden have another mishmash squad that could only possibly work under a manager that plays three at the back. No, not at all. I think that's one thing we really did get right this summer. Like the long-term strategy and planning was we're building a better squad of players that can do more. I think anyway. Noradine saying, change this, changing that, stop running with this social media reactionary gimmick. Always want to sack managers. Stop being emotional, Sam. See the stats. This is not on the system. Social media reactionary. As I said, like this is the 31st game in the Premier League under Ruben Amorim. So we're verging towards a full season. I'm emotional. I'm a United fan. I give a fuck about my club. I hate seeing. We got embarrassed, man. We got embarrassed yesterday. We got humiliated. This is the way I watched that game. First 15 minutes, we were in that game, but the quality wasn't there. And after that, it was just kind of painful watching United just get slapped up. I really don't feel that I'm a reactionary person. I'm emotional. Yeah, I'm emotional, but I'm not reactionary. If we don't switch away from simply playing in a rigid midfield two with two very specific roles, one's kind of the destroyer, then one's sort of the creator from deep. If we don't switch away from that, like if you're Chelsea going into the game against United, you know exactly how you need to set up. You know you need to overload that midfield, create an extra body, always have the out ball. And you know full well that when a corner swings in, you put it on the goalkeeper and you crowd. There's glaring obvious weaknesses in United's tactical setup and frailties that teams can exploit and gain from. And someone's Rodney's saying, can Amorim change his system to a 4-3-3? As I said, I'm not asking for that, man. I'm just asking for Amorim to find a way to get an extra body in midfield. And maybe that is not even changing the system at all, but encouraging one of the number 10s to drop it, whether that was Cunha, I don't know. Like yesterday, I'll speak about the pressing structure because that was a big old issue. And Bruno actually spoke about it really quite well. As good as our pressing was in the first 15 minutes, I think it was actually really quite good. After then, it just kind of got ripped apart. Jack, you're saying, hope you're well, Sam. We need to play our best players in their position. Bruno isn't good at being a central midfielder who needs defensive responsibilities. Bruno's best qualities are to be near the opposition's box. Bruno's worst qualities are when he's near his own box. I know that. You know that. Bruno knows that. Everybody knows that. So what should you do? Do whatever you can to get Bruno, as often as possible, close to the opposition's box. Then you get the best of Bruno. Then cover for the weaknesses that come behind. Manny is saying, if anyone needs to leave, it's Amorim's set piece guy. Our set pieces have been terrible. I actually think we've... How many... Wasn't our first, 2 goals this season from set pieces? Was it the first 2 goals? I can't remember. Fulham was. I do think we've been a little bit more of a threat from set pieces, which is kind of ironic. It wasn't exactly difficult. Ashwin is saying, why doesn't Amorim know that? I think Amorim does know that. I think it's abundantly obvious now. Like Amorim speaking after the game, let's speak about the players for a little bit here. Because that's what I said earlier. This is collective responsibility. There's no chance that I could come here, even if I was like, Amorim out, Amorim's got to get stacked always. There's no way that I could possibly say to you, everything that we saw there yesterday against City was purely down to the manager. He's the only... Like, come on. The players themselves, man. I despise the fact that Luke Shaw is still a regular starter for Manchester United in 2025. That's all I need to say about it. It's not really a slight on him, but I despise it. This isn't a reaction to him having a bad performance after playing okay for the first couple of games, but it's just like, what is Shaw still doing in the team, man? Yeah, like he had a shocker. Like he's had an okay couple of games for the first couple of games, right? Yeah, fine. But ever since his last injury last season, where he came back towards the end of it, Shaw has not been the same player. They all previously, if Shaw was out for an extended period of time and he came back in, he'd kind of remind you, right? He kind of reminds you who Luke Shaw was, and you go, oh yeah, he's one of the best in the world. Nah, but that conversation last season, that conversation not happening again. So frustrating, man. No, you're saying it's a bit strong. Yeah. Look, man, how long has Luke? This is a decade, isn't it? He must be on a testimonial now. People going nuts at Ruben Amorim taking off Euro for Maguire yesterday. Well, presumably he was doing that so we can have a threat from a set piece, and presumably he's keeping De Ligt on so we can have a threat from a set piece. I think that's quite obvious. And yeah, people are going really hard on. They're going in really hard on Dorgu, which I think is a little bit overzealous. I'll be totally honest, but his deliveries yesterday were, well, I just don't think there was a better example of players being in quality positions, failing with the final bit of quality. I think Dorgu was the best example of that because, as I said earlier, he had more touches in the opposition box than any other United player. Dorgu had the ball more in attacking positions than any other United player, and his crosses were all overhit. I was so frustrated that yesterday we didn't manage to float a ball in, not even float a ball in, a nice whipped cross for Šeško to get on the end of. None, not one. You're saying he can't cross? He can cross. But he just had a completely dead game yesterday as far as his crossing was concerned. But yesterday, the majority of our strong attacking positions ended up falling at the feet of either Mazraoui or Dorgu. That's not exactly who you want your dangerous balls being at, is it? You want Ahmad on that ball on the right, and Ahmad went down there eventually, and that was a tactical decision to try and sort of negate the threat of Doku, who then just ended up switching to the left-hand side and skipped through the entire defence. Then that was a 4-on-2 at that point in time, was it? Let's have a look. It's the exact screenshot here. Skip past Shaw. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players in the box with 2. Foden on the edge of the box. Bruno not tracking his man because Bruno's not a central midfielder. Just such a lack of quality yesterday everywhere. And in this interview here after the game, I thought Bruno spoke really well about the pressing issues and the pressing structure that's in the team. And Harrison from the Overlap sort of these quotes here, right? Bruno speaking about the pressing problem and that bit down there. When we go, we have to take more risks and we have to be more brave with the last line. Effectively, what he's saying there is that there were times when I needed to step forward onto Rodri, and the only way for that to work is if I look behind me, but I don't want to look behind me. I need to know that it's going to happen. And then Euro comes up and he goes on Foden. There was once, and it was probably leading up to that goal there, that he went towards Rodri. Euro ended up maybe speaking to someone else, ended up dropping back. The gaps open up. They found the spaces between the lines. And these conversations are conversations I had last season. There is absolutely nothing wrong, ever. Nothing wrong in football with making mistakes. Or just in life, really. No problem in making mistakes. But you're seeing repeated mistakes here. The idea that United's press, it didn't work because when Bruno, who was tasked with jumping onto Rodri, wasn't supported by the defence that jumped up behind him to squeeze the lines, it was the same problem as last season. That's a lot of what I saw there against City. That's why I'm frustrated. That's why I'm angry. A lot of what I saw against City yesterday could have been last season. Was repeating last season. Now, what do you think happens next? Okay. What do you as you know, as I said earlier, you look at Mbeumo. God, that volley. We didn't get the ball enough to him in threatening positions. And speaking about not getting the ball enough to someone, I think Šeško did kind of all he could. Ruben Diaz was hounding down on him. They were trying to be as physical as they possibly could. I think his hold-up play was okay. It wasn't perfect, but I didn't expect it to be perfect in his first start in a Manchester United shirt in the Premier League. I actually think his movement was good. Some of his hold-up play was good. We gave him no service. There was one ball where he got on the end of it, and then Donnarumma came out really quite well and smothered the chance. But we didn't get the ball anywhere near enough to Mbeumo or to Šeško or to get into attacking, threatening positions, right? And kind of that's how I feel after that game. Like, what do you think happens next? Because Chelsea's coming on Saturday, right? Bloody 5:30 kickoff on Saturday. And to quote Ruben himself, he's not going to change. See, this thing here, right? I don't think a philosophy is locked to a system. I think a philosophy is a set of underlying principles that a team can be. It doesn't really matter what game situation you're playing and whether you're 1-0 up, you're 4-0 down. You've got your philosophy, you've got your underlying principles of how you should play across the course of a game. I don't think that needs to be locked into a midfield two. I don't. And maybe I'm wrong on that one. Maybe it does. But with the cold, hard facts in front of us, that's the wrong one there. There is absolutely no shying away from this. Because of what happened last season, it was imperative that results came at the start of this season. And instead, we've got 4 points from our opening 4 games. I believe it's our worst start to the Premier League since 1992, since the first season of the Premier League, which of course we won. That's not going to happen. Tweaks are needed. There's so much evidence now across a long period of time and across after a summer too that shows in its current iteration, it's just not working. DP talking about City affording Donnarumma's wages tells a lot about who we are and what owners have done. Yeah. Donnarumma would be in a United shirt if we had the funds for it. I agree on that. I mean, you've literally got the goalkeeper who's just won the Champions League right there, who's available and wants to leave. Well, actually, no, doesn't want to leave, but he's getting forced out. Mahmoud is saying we're seeing a repeat pattern. Someone sent a super chat there. Let me read this out. Where you're saying Bruno lacks the discipline as a central midfielder. His failure to track back Smith Rowe and Foden shows that he should not play as a number 6. It's just not the natural part of his game. When you're like a natural defensive midfielder, you haven't got to be told to track. You haven't got to be coached to track you, man. You just do it subconsciously. The best footballers in the world have patterns that are so automated that they're automated. They've done it so many times before. They don't have to think about doing it. The legs are already doing it. The mind's already taking them there without a split second of thought time, because you don't need to think about it. You're just doing it naturally. That's what Bruno does going forward. Naturally looks up, sees the balls, always he's a footballer who is significantly better with the ball at his feet than without it. And his out of possession weaknesses get hyper exposed when you play him closer to the opposition's box. Andy's saying, I've said it before, but I think to play in midfield 2 requires top class disciplined mids, which we don't have. They also need to be absolute monster athletes. They really do. Like the ground coverage requirements. I haven't looked at the physical numbers. I have no idea really. But my assumption is that you're going to have to cover a lot more ground in a midfield 2 than you are in a midfield 3. Just by, I suppose, rules of logic. Haaland played centre yesterday. There's no excuse. What are you talking about? Man, he pissed me off, man, when he got that 3-minute period where Haaland was on the end of every bloody cross and corner we put in. I was like, piss off scoring. Did it. Richie saying, I just wanted to win. I don't care how we do it. United consistently breaking my heart. I was very curious to see whether United adopted these games differently this season compared to last season. Now, we didn't do that. We approached it in the same way. But we just didn't have the quality. We didn't defend our box anywhere near as well as we defended our box at City away last year. That's why we were so good away from home. I say so good. That's why we had better performances away from home against Liverpool, Arsenal, and City. Do I think Casemiro would have done better than Ugarte? Like, bro. Potato. It's like, really? Who's going to have that argument? I mean, it may well have been. Maybe it would have been slightly better, but that's what you're talking about. You're talking margins down towards the bottom percentages. Oh, he would have been 5% less bad. I was surprised that Casemiro didn't start, really, considering, again, we're playing once a week. Ineos, Ratcliffe, Barada, Wilcox. We know how cutthroat they have been at Manchester United. And internally, they would have had probably a marker this season, a point this season where they go, right, not that this is when we assess, but we need to see some sort of development and improvement consistently. And I think that's the big word, man. It's the consistency. Like, it is absolutely shocking. United, I don't think, have won 2 Premier League games in a row in over a year now. That's outrageous. That is outrageous. That's what I mean about the consistency. There's no point now talking about the Arsenal game because of what's followed. And if we were to go and, we're not going to, if we were to go and spank Chelsea 4-0, what? And then go lose away to Brentford. The consistency. It's just never been there. And that's why it feels like last season. That's why I'm so frustrated. And that's why that game there felt brutal for me. Steve, you're saying it's been hard for a long time, talking about false dawns and letdowns. Like, even if we just go back to the bloody pre-season, and you could pull out that game against Bournemouth, and you look at how United played in that game. I mean, pretty much the same team. A couple of differences, of course. But you kind of looked at how we played in that game. And there were tweaks. There was slight differences to how we played, especially in terms of the overall shape, out of possession with the pressing structure. I think we ended up playing like more of a 4-4. It was just a bit better. For that game against City, we were competitive for the opening 15 minutes without the quality that was needed. And I don't know how many times we've said that. We've said that about different players, different games, different positions, different opposition. So it's basically an expectance now. United's quality still isn't there. I mean, they're quality players, but on the pitch are just not there. Mike, you're saying, how do you cater for consistent individual mistakes? You can't do that. Last season, remember all the bloody ones that Onana did? Jeez, it's like he threw all those games away. Ruben's got to tweak his system, man. Pat, I agree with you that we missed Mount and Cunha. We did miss both. Both of them would have been in the starting 11. I don't see how, after all the evidence that keeps mounting, right? As I said, like we're quite literally bottom of the league since match day 12 last season to now. When you take away the teams that have been relegated, we're bottom. Ruben, that it really is enough evidence. I mean, that is the most. This is Manchester United. We're talking. I sound like a bloody mean. This is Manchester United, but it is. We're talking about being bottom of the bottom, absolutely scraping the barrel. Mate, tweak it. There has to be a tweak somewhere. There has to be an ability, without throwing the system out, without throwing the philosophy out, to find a way to get 3 in midfield. That's why I think so. Pyramid down there, I always get annoyed. Oh, it's the definition of insanity is doing the same. If it's bloody not, go and type in. I know it sounds good, but go and Google the definition of insanity, because it's definitely not that. Definition. Insanity. Yeah. I don't know where that even came from. But you know when something just gets spoken to as you hear it so many times, it becomes the truth. That's one of those things. Right. I'm going to wrap that up for now. To say it's disappointing is an understatement. And I don't see, I'll tell you what, I've lost faith in this midfield 2 structure. I don't see how, out of nowhere, it's going to work with the personnel that we've got. Happy to be wrong about that. Happy to be pleasantly surprised about it. But I can't see it now, after all the evidence that just keeps mounting. And you're saying, I hate the idea of sacking another manager, but the reality is this is relegation form. There's no change after game week 10. He's got to go. It is relegation form. And you're saying, one thing I noticed yesterday, Rodri was always talking, pointing and instructing. That's because Rodri is a kind of a natural number 6 and a natural leader, like in terms of the actual positioning. That's not Bruno. That's not Bruno's. That's not what Bruno is naturally good at. Never will be. You can ask him to do it as a manager, but he won't be able to. It's just not what he's naturally good at. Look, I'll be here at lunchtime today. What we learned from that City game, I'll run through it in a little bit more detail, a little bit more tactically. And then I'll try my best to create some videos and some conversations this week that isn't just loud and shouty and screaming at the screen, all right? Thank you all for tuning in. And, yeah, feels like a Monday, doesn't it?